What's going on, guys? Dave here, welcome to another video. Today I thought I'd talk about East vs West 6, which just happened today as the time of recording. So I've chucked up some training footage and let's talk about it. So lots to talk about for East vs West 6. I'm kind of structure it, and then I might put timestamps in the description of the video. But first I wanted to talk about the overall production and the referee. There was quite a lot of discussion about the referees, and I think it was quite justified. Overall, the entire production was very smooth. It flowed quickly from match to match. But I think the greatest issue with this production was the refereeing and how inconsistent and confusing it was. So one of the main things was what was going to be called. Elbow off the back, elbow off the front, bobbles. Those were especially prevalent in Jerry's match and Michael's match, where Michael bowled a few times. He had a humorous call on him. Both were probably shouldn't have been made. And then Jerry's versus Georgie, and Georgie's elbow was quite suspicious. I don't know. Who knows where it was? It looked like it was way off the back. And I think the reason for this is the referees don't have a consistent idea of what they want to achieve in the matches. When it is WAF light or light kind of adjusted rules, every referee has kind of a different interpretation of that. So you see in Michael's match, they had this idea that everything was going to be super rigid, super tight, and they were paranoid about Michael kind of getting away with stuff perhaps, and people getting angry about that. So they kind of went the other way and were making calls against him which were unfair. And I think that the issue with Jerry's match is they wanted an exciting match, so they were letting Georgie drag all the way off the back. It looked like in a couple of those. Plus the issue with the strap, they had to re-strap 3 separate times, I think, with Georgie and Jerry. And at that point, you know, I think they should have just cranked that strap as tight as humanly possible when after the first one, and then maybe added a second strap or something. You can't, when a strap comes loose 3 times like that, you can't be doing a loose strap because it's going to happen over and over again. So that was kind of odd. Then we had a few calls of which surely should have been fouling in a losing position, which weren't called, slipping in a completely losing position, which weren't called. And then, for example, Chance got like 3 false starts, and if you watched it back, he timed those perfectly, and I have no idea why they were called as false starts. And those were bad reffing, I believe. In my opinion, that was bad reffing. That Chance got called on those false starts when they weren't even, they were just perfectly timed hits. And in which case I think his match could have gone completely the other way. And finally, I noticed in Oleg Petrenko's and Moratov, excuse me if I'm getting the name wrong, you know, in their left-hand match, the Kazakh was carving in like crazy. He was cranked in, and they weren't straightening it out remotely. It was basically starting in a carved, completely hook-like position, which didn't benefit Petrenko at all. Like, he wanted a top roll, he wanted to go out, and his pronation was always blocked. And they would never straighten out. Now, Oleg didn't actually say anything about it. He wasn't verbalizing it, so the refs weren't doing anything about it. I would have been like complaining non-stop if I was Oleg. But having said that, like the Kazakh pinned him like 3 times in that first round and they weren't calling it. So all around, very bizarre refereeing. In general, the control the refs had over the matches was poor. Arm wrestlers were appealing to Engen and talking to the crowd. They were wandering off. There was like 5-minute rest breaks between rounds, or between, you know, like if they had a long match and then they fouled and they had to come back for the same round, they'd get a lot of rest. It was all over the place. It was already a very long event, and arm wrestlers having a really long rest between pulls of the same round was very odd. So yeah, a bit of criticism there. One big highlight, I think, was Travis Bagent's commentary. I found it hilarious and entertaining. It kept my interest. Having said that, it was obviously extremely biased and ragging on a couple of the arm wrestlers. That's Travis's shtick. For me, I found it very entertaining, but I'm sure for other pullers, especially from other nations, particularly the East, they may not have appreciated his commentary quite as much. But I found it a breath of fresh air to have someone very charismatic, very entertaining on the mic. It's not easy to do for so many hours, so I thought that was a highlight. Alright, getting into the matches themselves, I guess let's just start with I think the best match of the night, which was John and Irakli. What a great match. Kind of had everything in it. It was kind of a masterclass showcase of John. I think he had it obviously in the bag, and he did what John does, which is kind of let his opponent into the match a little bit. And kudos to Irakli that he seized the opportunity. I think Irakli was mentally tapped out after like round 2 and round 3, when he kind of went into every position and John just beat him. And when Irakli was resorting to a press, which we'd never seen before, and he was still got beat, I thought he was like, yep, I'm done. But yeah, John couldn't quite finish when he had given Irakli a bit of rope. Especially he wasn't able to pull off his shoulder roll, and he missed that 2 times, and it really allowed Irakli back in the match. I thought it was an awesome match. I thought Irakli had a perfect attitude towards the whole thing. I think he knew that what an honour it was to pull like that, and that John, you know, had given him a bit of rope, but I don't think that's any shade on what Irakli did. He pulled amazingly, and he seized the opportunity, and I think both came out looking fantastic, in all honesty. And yeah, John's hand and wrist, just absurd, just disgustingly strong. It's incredible. Jerry versus Georgie was a great match. I thought it would be easier for Jerry, but watching the match, you kind of realise why Jerry is so good versus long arm top rollers. Because he's really able to push. Basically, they run out of space so early, and Georgie has such a short arm that it actually benefited quite a lot. And he was able, even though there were some dubious calls and some dubious elbow fouls, he was still able to jam up and not run out of quite as much space while staying very high because his arm was so short. So Jerry really struggled with that. Having said all of that, Jerry is absurd, a freak. I think looking at those matches, it's almost impossible to imagine anyone pulling from those positions, some of the positions he was in, and actually winning. Just absurd. Just incredible. Jerry, yeah, he's a freak. Alright, what else we got? Michael versus Ongabayev. Yeah, it was, I think Michael got unlucky with a couple of calls, and he was right to be upset. However, whether he wasted a whole bunch of energy being upset, is a valid question. And Ongabayev just stayed calm and pulled perfectly. I think you look at how Michael's pulling now, and the biggest thing with how he's pulling compared to his when he was considered strongest is his riser and pronator. In all these matches, he's losing his pronation and he's losing his rise. And whatever you say about Michael, I think those are, something's happened and those aren't anywhere where they used to be. And he still put up a good fight, but yeah, I think his reign at the very top is pretty much over. Everyone's just getting so much better and learning how to deal with the King's move. So still a great match. Ongabayev, what a freak. Great job. I think the last match that I'll talk about is Gabby and Barbara. Fantastic match. Gabby, female GOAT. She had the power, but not quite the hand. The height of Barbara was just too much. She was just, and Gabby's hand, I think her hand size meant that she couldn't get around Barbara's hand enough, and just couldn't get purchased to pull Barbara down 3 times in a row. You could also see that Gabby's so short that she can't even get her elbow really to the very tip of the pad to get her arm nice and high and on top. So even though her arm's very short, their arms were still their wrists were quite far apart rather than being tight like this when being set up in the grip and being strapped up. I foresee probably a rematch of that. Gabby still did awesome. It was a great match, and congratulations to Barbara. Yeah, great event. Once again, thank you to Engen for putting it on. Armwrestling's at a great point in history at the moment. Let me know what you thought of the entire event in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers, guys.